Boys of Steel, the creators of Superman. It's the first ever standalone book about Siegel and Schuster, who created Superman in 1934. They've been parts of larger comics histories, but they've never had a book to themselves, which is hard to believe because their creation is so impactful, so influential. And it's illustrated, custom illustrated by Ross McDonald. And it's just been a blast to promote it and tell the story to kids. I mean, it's a book for all ages, even though it looks like a children's book. It's really an all-ages book. But it's especially heartening to see children who then know Siegel and Schuster's name the way that they might know Babe Ruth or Stevie Wonder or some. I mean, I can name many pop culture figures of the 20th century, and that's a a really rewarding aspect of the promotion process. Well, to be honest, after I wrote Boys of Steel, the only other hero that I thought could sustain a book of this type that I was interested in was Batman. And I didn't know much about Bill Finger at that point either. I knew that he had been, by most people's accounts, wronged. And that's always a good starting point for a nonfiction book. But then when I started to look into him, I just found that it was so much more fascinating than I could have expected. And it did become something of a crusade for me, and just this idea of giving, not single-handedly, of course, but trying to do my part to restore someone's legacy. Everybody in comics that knows their stuff knows him, but a lot of people don't know much about him as a man. They just know that his name should be on Batman, but they don't know what he actually was about. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is to tell that story. Yeah, people that actually, when I started the project and started to ask around in the comics community, as far as I was told, there was no family. So, yeah, almost everybody that I uncovered and spoke to was kind of like a little piece of, gold in the pan that nobody knew about. And so that gives it a sense of vitality that I again, could not have expected, to be able to talk to people that have never been interviewed about him before. And in some cases, some of the research that I did went on to have a pretty big effect on their personal lives, which I can't talk about yet, but it will be in part of the book and part of the story behind the book. And that was a huge honor. I interviewed a man named Charles Sinclair, who, God bless him, he's going to be 86 or 87, and he was Bill Finger's longtime writing partner, not on Batman comics. They wrote everything else. They wrote B movies, I think radio, they wrote television, and they did write one episode of the Batman television show, two-parter, with the Clock King. And when I went to interview Charles, I interviewed him over the phone, but when I went to meet him in person for the first time in Brooklyn, we talked for a while, and then he walked over to his shelf and took off a little bronze paperweight, which was shaped like a scarab and had Egyptian hieroglyphs underneath. And he said that he wanted me to have it because it used to be Bill's. And I got a huge chill from that, and I was also, of course, trying to tell him that he shouldn't give this to me. Bill was his best friend for a while. He should keep it. And Charles said, I have something else from Bill. I think this would mean a lot to you. You should have this. So it's been on my desk ever since. I'm a minimalist. I don't like clutter. I don't like stuff. But that has place of pride on my desk. There hopefully will be some news. Hopefully in terms of my book, but even more importantly, real-world news regarding Bill Finger and his legacy. I can't say anything more than that at this point, but I wish I could. And if I could, I would love to talk about it for a long time. But I have to, it's not just my story anymore, so I've got to wait for other things to happen. But it'll be on my blog.